Okay, what is up everybody? Back at you with another YouTube upload. Anyway, this one is going to be about why the WWE needing to drop both the US and Intercontinental titles. But first, I'd be remiss if I didn't at first mention the tragedy that happened at the Boston Marathon. Very unfortunate incident that happened, and it just goes to show, you live in a different world. Ever since 9/11, totally different world. My condolences are extended to the families of those that lost somebody during the tragedy. Yeah, it's only 3 people, but still it hurts. And a whole lot is happening in Massachusetts as I speak. I believe they would have caught the suspects, but I know a police officer unfortunately got shot and killed at the MIT campus, I think. So my condolences go out to his family as well. Just senseless, truly senseless. As news breaks, I'm sure everybody will, get an idea of what is happening. Because like I said, as I'm talking to you right now, news is breaking and continuing to break. As you know, this is taking over CNN, MSNBC, and of course social media sites all over. Anyway, to the subject at hand, both the US and Intercontinental champions. Growing up, I can remember that if you were either champion, it meant that you were the #1 contender for the World Heavyweight Championship, WWF Championship in the case of the Intercontinental Champion. And it meant that being the champion, I guess more or less meant that you are almost ready for prime time, so to speak, and that you were going to get your shot. I felt as though both titles were a great chance and an opportunity to to build up any wrestler that they felt was ready or had main event talent and status, but simply needed to be built up as a character. And those 2 titles, I felt as though did it. Even if you look at the history of those titles, the first US heavyweight champion was Hall of Famer Harley Race. First Intercontinental champion, Hall of Famer Pat Patterson. So even if you go down the list of champions, for US champions you have Ric Flair, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Sting, Lex Luger, Vader, Barry Windham, so on and so forth. Intercontinental, same thing. You could go down from Pat Patterson, Don Morocco, Macho Man Randy Savage, Mr. Perfect, Rick Rude, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, so on and so forth. The list goes on, just littered with Hall of Famers. As a matter of fact, the match that is probably considered one of the greatest of all time was fought over the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 3 in Pontiac, Michigan, at the Silverdome. And where Ricky the Dragon Steamboat defeated Macho Man Randy Savage for the Intercontinental Championship. And so it's a very prestigious title, very, very prestigious. It's just that nowadays, with both titles, and of course WCW being bought by WWF, WWE, whatever you want to call it, that both titles don't mean that much anymore. At one point they simply got rid of the US title and just kept the Intercontinental, but when they did the brand split, they brought the US title back. But my issue and my thing is, at this point in time, both titles ought to be dropped, because there is no attention being paid to them. The champions more or less hardly ever defend. Even if they do defend, it's at, a SmackDown or at a Raw, but hardly at a pay-per-view. As a matter of fact, they defended the Intercontinental Championship not even at WrestleMania, but at the pre-show, which is a glorified dark match / SmackDown match / house show match. In other words, it doesn't mean that much. Also, when you have the champions lose on a regular basis to, I guess you can say, well, sometimes main event and non-main event talent, simply devalues both titles. Like I said, I grew up in wrestling as a wrestling fan, I should say, believing that whoever was the US champion or Intercontinental champion was more or less, the #1 contender, but also, was elevated to that status and got their world title shot. Win or lose, they got their shot, and it was some cases it's champion versus champion and so on and so forth. But and even in cases like with the Intercontinental champion in the WWE, it was not an unusual sight for if the Intercontinental champion won the world title, for him to hold both belts. Now, eventually he would drop the IC title and focus on the World Heavyweight Championship, but nonetheless, at least there was some prestige behind the title. Same thing with the US title, although he had personally not to drop the title, but there was some prestige behind the title. I think TNA is trying to bring prestige to the X Division title by guaranteeing whoever the X Division champion is to get a world heavyweight title shot. Now, it's not guaranteed that the person will become champion, but at the very least there's some prestige behind the title. Something that the WWE does not want to do, or in my opinion not interested in doing at this point in time. Like I said, if there's no prestige behind the title, despite the history, despite the connection behind the titles, then in all honesty, both titles at this point in time needs to be dropped, and just have the World Heavyweight Championship and WWE Championship and call it a day. The tag team titles are a whole nother story. They should also be dropped, but that's another story for another day. Anyway, tell me what you think. Should both titles be dropped? As always, comment, rate, subscribe, and thank you very much for listening.